Hi, welcome back to Spirit Lounge. Hope you guys are doing really well and enjoying life. So today we're going to continue in our Nag Hammadi journey. This chapter, by the way, is very long, so please persevere and persist in it. You may want to split it up into two, but it is going to be over an hour, so let's jump straight into it. Okay, so the chapter is the teachings of Sylvanus. It's quite long, and it's the first non-Gnostic type text in here. It's got some Egyptian mythology in there, and it's and some admonitions, which are counsels and warnings. It's to a fictitious pupil, so it's written in my child. So it's talking to a fictitious pupil, but also talking to, I would say, the spiritual being or the the material being of us all. So it's a kind of fictitious recipient of this of knowledge. Also gives some praise to God as wisdom, or Christ in some hymns. But it's fairly fragmented and very repetitive as we walk through it. You'll see this in the chapters. The passages are very, very short, and some are very, very long, but they tend to repeat. It is Christian writing. And it says it's the first century, so it's kind of around, or just before, it's kind of around the same time as where the Nag Hammadi's codices were, around about the time they were supposed to be written. And it's a moral philosophy, really, about wisdom, and it's theological, but it's fairly fragmented, as you will see. So let's just jump straight into this. Okay, so first one is, let your mind be your guide. Now, when you listen to this particular chapter, it's all about guarding oneself from evil or distractions or attachments, and moving to oneself towards the realization of the Godhead, or Christ in this particular manner is heavily reinforced. It does use certain language and terminology of the day, and we'll kind of describe that as quick as we can, because this is a fairly long chapter indeed. Okay, let your mind be your guide. Put an end to every kind of immature conduct. Acquire for yourself, so this is the pupil, this is you, this is us, this is the spirit, this is our material being. Try for yourself strength, mind, and soul against every kind of foolishness consisting of the passions of erotic love, base wickedness, anger. So what the list is actually quite long. It's talking about for us to move against our material selves, our attachments, and our lustful selves, our greed selves, our ego mind selves, our attachment to our bodies, our loins, our accumulations, and our egocentric minds. It's asking us to become less attached and adoring of the physical and move towards spiritual. Guard your encampment. The encampment is yourself. The encampment is your heart and your spirit and your heart, with the mind the processor and the body is the shaft. Remember, the trinity and the body and the physical, the way we execute in the physical world is through our body, but that is the shaft of the cross. The trinity is the spirit, the heart, and the mind. Okay, arm yourself, all the soldiers, which are words and commanders, which are counsels. This is referring to divine knowledge. So counsel and words are divine knowledge and divine knowing. It's the uncovering of that, unrevealing of that through thyself. Mind is a guiding principle. Mind is the processor. The guiding principle is the spirit. So I do disagree with this chapter when it talks of mind. It kind of reinforces the mind as being the leading principle. It isn't the leading principle. The mind is a receiver of what one allows through the inner self, the inner consciousness, which is the divine spirit, the divine energy, the divine breath. Throw every robber out of your gates. This is distraction. This is the robber of the attachment to the spirit, and the robber which wants you to attach to the physical. Guard your gates. These means you will acquire a tranquil life. And so I agree with this. The more we move into our spiritual selves and allow that to guide us, the more tranquil and more aligned life becomes, and the waters of our life are peaceful and tranquil as they navigate down into the eternal sea. which is the truth. The more we are detached from our spiritual selves, the more metaphorical rocks are thrown into the river, the more distracted we become, the more hard life becomes, the more hardships we experience. So it's like a path, for example. If we know there's a straight line, this talks about a straight path, by the way, which is a spiritual path. A broad path being a large path which we can wander from side to side, being the path of loss. If we know a path and it's direct, but then we merge off that path and go to different avenues and different roads which are off the one that we agreed to go on, life can become difficult. They're all metaphors for the same thing. A person who will not, of course, choose this tranquil path will become like a captured city, desolate. For thoughts that are not good are evil beasts. City will be filled with robbers and not obtain peace. The evil one, who is a tyrant, is lord over them. He dwells beneath the great mud, your soul. The great mud being, I call that trudging through life, heaviness, like a load. When you walk through mud, it's hard, it's difficult, it's protracted, it's energy sapping. Your soul will suffer destruction. Remove yourself, bring in your guide. Mind is the guide, reason is the teacher, bring you out of dangers. Mind is the processor, reason is actually knowing. The teacher is Christ consciousness, and the Christ consciousness is the revealer of inner knowing and divine wealth of knowledge. Okay, be a human being, not an animal. Listen, my child, don't show your back to your enemies. Go after them. Don't be an animal. Instead, be a human being. Lest somehow they prevail over you, you perish through their wickedness. What will you do if you fall into their hands? Isn't it effectively saying, if we move into our physical or non-spiritual selves, we then attain more and more loss, more and more distraction, more and more movement away from our true core, our nature, our intention for life. And then it's wickedness. We perish soulfully, we perish spiritually within ourselves, not necessarily physical death. Okay, the next one. Your mind and reason will protect you. Entrust yourselves to this pair of friends. Move this mic a little closer. Entrust yourself to this pair of friends, reason and mind. So he's talking about reason and mind as a pair of friends. Now, for me, your friend is the Trinity. The experiencer is the shaft. So the mind is part of the Trinity. Reason is knowledge. Knowledge is revealed through the Spirit. So in some ways I agree, but I don't agree with how it's portrayed here. So the friends that we have is our spirit, our mind, our spirit, our heart, which is the emotive center of our soul, and the mind being the processor which helps us process, understand, think about, reveal thought through, and the body is the shaft in which we execute and experience physical life. So the friends are three, not just two, but we can read into that whatever you wish. Reason and mind. May camp dwell in your camp. May camp dwell in your camp. I missed something there, sorry. May spirit protect your gates, the divine mind. Let holy reason become a torch. That's holy reason. That means divine knowing. Knowledge, holy reason is divine knowledge revealing itself and illuminating life, which is light. Light is information, light illuminates, so therefore the torch is knowing. It illuminates life for you and therefore the path forward. Burning the wood, which is all sin. You will prevail over all enemies, not able to wage war. They will not be able to wage war against you or get in your way. If you encounter them, you will despise them as mere gnats. They are afraid of those who dwell within you. That's right, so they are afraid of those who dwell within you. That is talking about the divine self. Those who are not pursuing and seeking divinity or knowledge or divine reason, holy reason, are afraid of those who are. Hence, the world today is constantly pushing you or trying to push you into living within your mind, in your fears, in your anxieties, all of the physical attachments, to take you away from the spiritual self, because the spiritual self, when it's revealed unto oneself, is the most powerful, dominant thing that could ever exist. and you stand within your own stead, and you execute life within the wisdom of reason and that illuminating torch. Okay, attend to your education. Education here is, again, the revealing of knowledge. It's knowing, it's revealing knowing. Education is allowing that which is within yourself to be revealed to yourself and into your conscious mind, so that you can educate yourself and reveal truth. My child, except for yourself, do not flee from the education and the teaching. Accept it joyfully. When educated, do what is good. In other words, follow those teachings. Practice, practice, practice. Become the second coming, as we talk about a lot in our videos. Weave a crown of education, knowing, your guiding principle. Holy teaching like a robe. In other words, become that which you're learning. Execute that in life, which is the robe. The robe is the revealing of light from within, but it's also, if you wear something, you need to become it, right? There's no point just practicing and preaching if you're not becoming that which you are seeking to evolve towards. Noble by good conduct, austerity of good discipline. What does this mean, austerity of good discipline? What it means is that through the revealing of knowledge, we become more austere. Austere just means we require less. We demand less. We accumulate less. We wish our greed-driven, our lust desires, our egocentric minds, our attachment to our bodies recedes, and therefore become austere. We become austere within the physical sense, but become abundant in a spiritual sense. We do not stray and develop ignorance. Lead your people astray. So this could be those that we teach. We are here to teach each other as we practice and wear those robes and garments as suggested here. We are to teach others, but also not lead the people astray. That those people or persons could also be ourselves. Do not flee from the divine. Throw out animal nature. For you attain maturity by knowing the way. If it is good to rule over the few, rule over everyone with divine reason. Okay, so discern what you read here. So do not, it says, it is good to rule over the few. If it is good to rule over the few, rule over everyone with divine reason. This is not referring to us becoming rulers. This is not referring to us to go out and dominate others. So be discerning of what you read. It's all about spiritual. So it's not talking about rule. It's not rule over everyone. This is cascading knowledge through oneself to everyone, for me, if I read this. Remember the period in which this is written. So this is not asking you to go rule others or look down upon those who are not following the path that you are. This is everyone's own individual, unique passage through life. So I would say discern, and we're not here to rule anyone. Become master over every power that kills the soul. That means dominate that which distracts you. Does anyone want to be a slave? Well, a slave to the material self, slave to ourselves. When we are lost, as we call distraction, that we become also slaves to the whims of others outside of ourselves as well, don't we? Within the physical world, particularly in this world today, there are those who wish to dominate us with their own whims, their own instruction, which is this asking you to overcome. Do not fear anyone except God alone. Well, not necessarily so. We're not here to fear God. Do not believe in or worship a vengeful divine. There is no such thing as a vengeful divine. I cannot stress this enough. This is a very, the notion of a vengeful divine is a very orthodox, dogmatic teaching, and it needs to be removed. Again, this is from those times where it was deemed to be fearful of God because of wrath and judgment. There is none. There is only love and acceptance and a waiting for you to come to it. There is no casting away of anyone. It is just a silent waiting with love and an embrace for us to come and reveal itself through us and return our emanation towards the Godhead. So there is no fear. The fear and judgment is really our own. We cascade and we create our own hell and our own heaven and our own perdition and our own purgatory. It is ours to suffer and ours to create alone. It's part of free will. It's part of the tendencies and all possibility of the divine universe. It allows us to become whatever we wish, remember. The divine does this. It's for us to decide what it is we create and experience. We will create our own misery or our own joy. So there is no fear in God. So please remove that from any notion. Cast away deceitfulness of the devil. Light for your eyes. Live in Christ. This is the Christ consciousness, remember. Divine love, beauty, joy, unity, acceptance, and the other teachings of Christ itself, which are similar to other avatars. All avatars actually preached and cascaded knowledge and wisdom that was relevant to where they were, where they manifested on this earth plane in the period of linear time in which they manifested, but it needed to be cascaded to everyone from that place. Don't become as bags stuffed with many useless things. This would be for material things. This would be distractful spiritual things that are not real, and also the ego of the mental mind absorbing information that is not taking it anywhere. Bring an end to the sleep that weighs. This is ignorance and blindness. Sleep is ignorance and blindness. Away from forgetfulness. Remember, we don't forget. When we are at birth, we don't forget. We are open spiritual beings upon birth. Our veil towards us and the divine is not there. But we develop that veil from birth onwards through the impositions of this physical world, through the dogmas of our teachers, our parents, our friends, our environments. We create this veil. It can become thicker and thicker we become completely blind. Christ came to give you this gift. Why? Pursue the darkness when light is at your disposal. Okay. Wisdom summons you. Okay, so just to move this out of the way a moment. And thanks for anyone who's joining and listening to this. Hey Lotus, thank you. Thank you for joining, and Happy New Year. And anyone else who is listening to this live, it's a blessing to me, by the way, anyone who does manage to catch me live, because I'm very random when I do this. It takes a long time for me to type these things up. Wisdom summons you. Wisdom summons you, yet you desire folly. Wisdom summons, come to me, all you foolish ones. Gift the understanding that is good. High priestly vestment, which is a robe, remember. So that when it talks about high priestly vestments, it's asking us to wear divine knowledge. From every kind of wisdom, what else is evil? Familiarity with forgetfulness. So what it's saying is evil is the attachment and the comfort of ignorance. So there is nothing wrong with that, by the way. If one chooses to be forgetful, to live in that familiarity of forgetfulness, which is ignorance of true reality, and one is happy, then so be it. We're not all here to pursue this path. We're not all here to listen to videos like this that you guys are listening to live, and those who will watch the recording. It is a choice, but this is asking those who are on the path seeking, because if you weren't seeking, you wouldn't be watching this right now, to wear that priestly vestment and also remove the familiarity with forgetfulness. Cast your anxiety, worry upon God alone. So this is worry. So it's not necessarily the worry as in you're worried about things. It's the anxiety of the revealing. And leave the anxiety of what is alone and let that be revealed to you through the Godhead which you are. Clothe yourself with wisdom like a crown, throne of perception. Okay, the foolish person's folly. Foolish person puts on folly like a robe, a garment of sorrow, and crowns itself with ignorance, a throne of incomprehension. This is all talking about ignorance and many levels of it. Sheepish individuals who follow other physical individuals and adorn them with worship just because they are in positions of physical authority within our physical material world. They actually have no authority, only that which we allow them to have and that we give ourselves to them. The true authority is your own and is the nature of the true Godhead. Leads only himself astray, ways of every passionate desire, sunk to the depths, find profit in doing things that are of no profit. I like that statement. Will die because he does not have the mind of a helmsman. This is spiritual death, remember, not physical death. Mind of a helmsman. What does this mean? Well, if there's no one navigating your ship, there is no helmsman, your ship will go astray, crash into rocks, go into rapid waters or stormy seas. That's what this is talking about. A horse has no rider. By three evils, death as a father. Okay, so death means you father the realm of ignorance, and that devolves into ignorance of the mother. A mother becomes ignorant, so it gives birth to further ignorance. And evil counsels he's got as friends and brothers. So this is taking, first of all, choosing the path of forgetfulness, developing ignorance of as a mother, and then receiving counsel from those who are also as equally ignorant and therefore not revealing anything to oneself. So death, ignorance, and continued counsel of such. Okay, where are we? Return to your divine. Return to your divine nature. Take for yourself Christ, the true friend. Death did not exist at first. Exactly. I've mentioned this many times. When we come into physical being, our veil between us and the divine home from which we came. Remember, our golden thread exists forever. We're not ever detached from source. Your core of your soul exists within the divine, within the embrace of God all the time. A golden thread comes down in the fractal of your true nature. The power of the universe exists within you. You cannot exist in the body as a whole. A fractal of you exists here, and a golden thread is connected to the divine always. That thread can grey, and that veil develops as that golden thread dims its light. The veil in which is created from birth, the ignorance that we develop from an infant onwards, is really an imposition upon ourselves. It's not really an infant's choice to have that veil. Some consciousnesses within ourselves are very strong, and so a child remains open, remains connected, remains aware almost all the time, and that then develops as they get older into adulthood and able to make their own decisions and determine what truth is real to them and what isn't, and they're able to seek for themselves. Until then, a child is really imposed upon this world through the external, the friends, the family, the dogma of religion and other things that come into play, which impose upon ourselves ignorance, take away our true nature, and that golden thread dims. As it dims, a veil of grey, starts to develop thicker and thicker. The wall between us and what was not there before at birth starts to develop. This is where ignorance develops. This is how we become sheep. This is how we become lost, and how our spiritual death starts to emerge. Okay, sorry, I've distracted there. Nor exist in the end, exactly. So as the death wasn't there at the beginning, it will not be there in the end, because from leaving the physical body, that veil disappears and we instantly return back into our home. That golden thread, we traverse back up. The whole purpose of life is to illuminate that golden thread as it was on birth, and to navigate your awareness from this physical self up into that golden thread and traverse it up back towards the vibration of the divine. And that is what it means to be expansion. That is what it means to be ascending. That is what it means to be moving through dimensional frequencies, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, up to 12, however many new ages create. This is the reason, and this is the path. Okay, where was I? Since you cast from yourself God, the Holy Father, true life, which is the true life, which is the spring of life, inherited death as your father, robbed you of true knowledge. Return to your first father. The first father is the Spirit. God and wisdom, which comes from the connection. Your mother came into being. Do not be arrogant, opposing every good opinion. Take for your teacher the word, which is Christ consciousness. Keep the holy commandments, which are teachings, not the biblical things, the teachings that come from your own emergence. Be honored by the angels and archangels. Get yourself places in heaven above. Do not bring grief and trouble to the divine. I didn't agree with this. So, do not bring grief and trouble to the divine. It means do not share your anxieties. Well, that's not actually correct, because through the passage of this expansion that we all seek, we are also confronting our ego. We are revealing ourselves, our vulnerabilities. And by doing so, we're always sharing with our divine selves. And the divine self is pure love. It wants to receive you. And that through that receiving is to heal all those anxieties, those fears, those elements of loss. So that is not literal, this statement. We are always sharing every aspect of ourselves, because every aspect of ourselves is always transcending into the divine, because we are particles on an infinite canvas of never unceasing particles of experience that is all within the one. So that's not necessarily true. We are always through the passage sharing with the divine. Become self-control in your soul and body. Become a throne of wisdom. Member of God's household, great light through it, which is wisdom. So I'm trying to not rush through this, because there's an awful lot to get through. Okay. Know yourself. This is very long, as you can see, and I cut this down, by the way, so it's quite a lot. There's about a third that I haven't written. But before everything else, know yourself. Absolutely true statement. Absorb this, if nothing else. You must know thyself. To know thyself is to go into thyself and to reveal and become vulnerable and to expose, to therefore heal and therefore grow. So to know yourself is to be within oneself. What substance you are, come into being from three races: earth, from the form, earth, and from the formed, which is plasma, from the created, which is the spirit. Now, let's refer this back to the previous passages in the Nag Hammadi. Remember, it talked about the physical, the psychical, and the spiritual. Others too. So the physical is the earth, the psychical is the plasmatic, the plasma. The plasma is the energy formation within ourselves, and also the illuminating mind. So together we start to open up our psychic selves, which is the plasma selves. And the created is the spirit, which is the spiritual. So we can still align those three factors. Body came into being for the sake of the soul. Come into being from the thought of the divine. So this is through source, is that it all exists above and below. In life we manifest through repeated thought, same in all eternal existence. So yes, everything did come into existence through the thought of our divine Father. Just as it above is below, everything in your life, in our lives, comes to manifest through repeated thought. We manifest through repeated thought. We manifest experiences through repeated thought. We manifest what we have, positive or negative or indifferent experiences, through thought. The more we think of something, the more we think of our lives as something, that is what we experience. It is no different. For as above, so below. In many aspects, this divine universe was incepted through thought itself. Divine thought, which manifests energy into form, into matter, using the divine universal laws, and off it cascades with its own free will, creating forms and mass and matter ongoing through destruction, preservation, and creation, which are the forces of the universe. The body came into being for the sake of the soul. It came into being from from the thought of the divine, which we talked about. The created is the mind, has substance from the divine, but the soul is that which he formed within them. That's true. That's the Trinity that I talk about. The body is a substance. Body substance is matter. If you mix yourself, get for yourself the three parts, which are, remember, the earth, the plasma, and the spirit. Get the fall from heavenly virtue into earthly inferiority, which is incarnation, but also attachment to life. So this is falling from our spiritual being into life is also an incarnational thing. Falling into earthly inferiority is basically incarnation into this realm. But also, when in this realm, we can create that veil, which also means attachment to the physical things in life, which also causes an earthly inferiority. Get strength for yourself. Mind is strong. If you cut off the male part, which is thought, turn yourself to the female part alone, which is spirit. Mind is not the primary. You have become psychical. So this means if you remove the physical, you say in the plasma side, which is the psychical self. It is difficult to find a psychical person. Let me just read this again. It is difficult to find a psychical person, how much more so to find the Lord. God is the spiritual one. Human beings have taken shape from the substance of God, which is spirit, thought, and matter. Divine souls share partly in him, which is the human. Souls share partly in flesh. Base soul tends to turn from one side to the other. Do you, which is the soul, wish to become animal when you come into this kind of nature, which is when you drop into human, what do you wish to become? Rather take part in a true nature, intellectual nature, which is thought, knowing, intellect to process, not ego mind, will guide you to intelligible forms. O obstinate soul, which is the stubborn self, be sober, which basically means wake up. If you live in the body, you dwell in a boorish condition, which is bodily attachment. Entered into a bodily birth, you were begotten. So you born again, you come to be inside the bridal chamber. So we are born in physical, we have rebirth within our spiritual. The bridal chamber effectively just means is a metaphorical for baptism as well, but it's not just a ritual, it's a revealing of education and knowledge within ourselves. So that's quite a long that's a quite long passage there. So I'll move on because it's quite long. Beware of the adversary. The adversary isn't talking about the metaphorical devil here, okay? It's talking about the adversary of yourself. This is something that I try to remind everyone that when you're talking about adversary, first of all, always look at the adversary of the mirror, the image that you see in the mirror. That image is the adversary that you must confront first, because within it are all the other adversaries that we think are external to ourselves. Do not swim in any kind of water, strange kinds of knowledge. So remember the water above and below. So we had the water as the demiurge looked up. It saw the image, or what it thought was of God, and then created it in human form as the story goes. But below, as Sophia looked down into the waters and saw the demiurge of what had been created, the realm below, there was also darker waters. So this is talking about beware which waters you swim in. Strange kinds of knowledge. Schemes of the adversary are not few. They have robbed the foolish. Snakes and shrewdness. Agreement with these two, snakes and shrewdness, a dove's innocence. So we have two forms. We have the snake of shrewdness or the innocence of the dove. He, the adversary, which is ourselves, will come in guise of a flatterer. I advise good things for you. Cast into our hearts evil thoughts disguised as good ones. So we have the external and are also ourselves, which can accept the distraction and loss of the physical world, and that which brings ignorance, and cast those thoughts into ourselves. The one who says, I have many gods, is godless. Depends how we want to interpret this, because remember, many faiths out there have idols as well. That doesn't mean they're godless. Humanity from the very onset has always needed something to pray towards. It needed an object. It always needs objects. We haven't manifested enough, evolved enough to understand that we do not need an object or a focus of desire. A focus of devotion and prayer. And something to then bestow our love and make it holy. Idols are representations of fragments of all. They're aspects of the one. If you look at many idols in Hinduism, for example, they're all aspects. So Ganesh is for prosperity. Others are for love. Others are for courage. And they're all representing different aspects, but they're idols of the one, which is Brahma in Hinduism, which is the one, all God. So that's not necessarily true. It depends how you wish to interpret that. But we shouldn't judge those who have many idols because they do represent the one. We need to understand more than judge. Remember that. Okay, where are we? I lost my way. Okay. Casts spurious knowledge. Those who wish to accept him as king, how ill you comprehend him. He will enter your soul. Perceive in what garment he will enter you. Accept Christ, who will set you free. He might destroy him. This is the king you have, forever invincible. Against him no one will be able to fight or speak a word. None like him. Divine teacher is within you, which is true. He meets you because of the good you have within you. So all teachings, all consciousness, grades of consciousness are ready to reveal themselves unto us because the receiver of that is always our spirit and it resides in everything. Okay, watch your speech. Every malicious person harms only himself. Foolish persons walk towards his own destruction. A wise person knows the way. Don't utter every word in the presence of those you don't know. This for me is spiritual others, in other words. So it's okay to be discussing what it is your path is, but there's no point discussing that with those who have no clue what you're talking about. Some are ready to receive words of wisdom and knowledge and embark upon a path. Some are not. Some find it mere entertainment. Some find it humorous. Some mockingly so. So this is talking about you don't need to utter the word. The word is infinite knowledge to everyone that you know. Be discerning about those that you will share. Those that you don't know are basically those who are not following a path that you are, who are emitting a frequency that you are. Okay, do not trust anyone as a friend. Again, don't take everything literally in here. You do have to trust people. Have a good number of friends, but not many counselors. This means we can have many friends, but we speak spiritual counsel from ourselves and those who are of similar frequency. Don't honor anyone who flatters. Hearts are full of poison. They will turn against you and throw you down into the mud. This is talking about distracting yourselves with the words of those who are not following the wisdom that you seek. Do not trust anyone as a friend. The world has become deceitful. There are many who have, but not everyone. Things of this world are without profit. Each person seeks his own advantage. Quite a cynical passage. Some of it's true in this world. Okay. Let's go here. I would say to those who join, if you don't like what you read, don't put nonsense in a chat window because it's just a reflection of your own ignorance. Just unsubscribe from my channel and don't listen, don't watch or tune into anything I do. I don't really cater for people like yourselves. So please just drop off and don't pollute the energy of those who are watching and listening to this. I can see a statement there that's quite sad for that person. Doesn't affect me at all. I just honestly find it humorous. Okay, entrust yourself to God alone. Entrust yourself to God alone. Father, friend, earth full of suffering and pain. So this is a physically and spiritual loss. Lead your life in tranquility. Do not keep company with anyone. This doesn't mean isolation. This is talking about keep company with those of your frequency. Just doesn't mean remove everyone from life and live in a cave. Okay, Christ is the true light. Live with Christ and he will save you, which is a consciousness, Christ consciousness. True light. Christ illuminates every mind and heart. One who is wicked during his life, he is incapable of seeing it. They do not have a sound mind. Do not delight in acquiring the light of Christ. Everything visible is a copy of what is invisible. So this is talking about as above, so below. Not necessarily that the realm of grace, which actually is a darkness of that, an emptiness that contains all. Doesn't have an earth up there unless you want it to have. It doesn't have the physical things that we experience unless you manifest it there yourself. But it's the energetic and the laws of the above and below. The sun in the sky, rays extend to all places on earth. It's a single being that Christ gives light to every place. In other words, it's saying that as the sun in the sky shines its light across the earth, Christ consciousness is also there, shining its light across the earth, but will be felt by those who are ready to receive it. Okay, let's continue. Let me just put another. Okay, is the mind in a place? The mind, in terms of its actual being, is in a place. It's in the body. In terms of thought process, the mind is not in a place. In terms of thought, mind is not a place. How can it be in a place when it contemplates every place? So this is what is referring to, for me, the mind is a processor. It is the conscious receiver of what is received from our traversal to our spirit. But it's not in any particular place. Divine thought doesn't evolve in a place. So it's saying the thought is in every place. Thought comes from the all, which is everything. It is not just located in the mind, which is not in a place. When it's in divine thought, the mind is not in a singular place. It is comprehending everything out there. God is incorporeal and in no place. So do not think in yourself that God is in a place. If you localize the Lord of all in a place is more exalted. It means that the divine is more exalted, and it can't be put into any particular place. It is in everything. What contains is superior to what is contained. That's right. So the spirit is superior to what is contained within the body, but also the spirit is also contained in place that can be called incorporeal, which is not of matter. God is not corporeal. Okay. Knowledge of God came through knowledge of Christ. Creator of all creatures is not difficult to know, impossible to comprehend, not only difficult for human beings to comprehend God, also difficult for every divine nature, angels and archangels, if you believe in those energies and forces. For it is necessary to know God in the way he is. You cannot know God except through Christ and other avatar messaging, but we'll leave. It bears the image. Image reveals true likeness of God. I'll explain that a little further because it's actually repeated elsewhere. He is in every place. Okay, God is everywhere and nowhere. He is in every place. He is in no place. In terms of divinity, he is in no place. It is possible to know God a little. He fills every place. Nothing contains him. Everything is in God, not in anything. What is it to know? Everything that partakes of the truth of God. It's kind of true, this, in the previous passage. We cannot know the true frequency and state of the divine whilst in form. It's just not possible. No one and nothing on this earth will evolve to true Godhead. But you are here to evolve sufficiently towards enough of it that you no longer partake with incarnational life within a physical form. To know the true nature of the divine is to be not in form. That is when we are home and we are not incarnate in anything. But we are here to understand this through our connection to our spirit, be that through Krishna, Christ consciousness, be that through Buddha, be that through whichever manner or teaching that you wish to express You'll move through many spokes in the wheel, and you'll study everything, which we should. But we are here to express as much of the Godhead as we are capable of understanding through the vessel that we are in, sufficiently enough to achieve moksha, which is the release from the cycle of rebirth, for which for me is the purpose. Okay, Christ is the light of the Father. To look at Christ as it is to look at the Son. God sees everyone. No one sees him, which is true. Christ receives and gives. Light of the Father. He shed light on every place. Inherited everything from the one who is. All is Christ. Apprehension, which is fear, of imperishability is the apprehension of Christ. So those who fear knowing the true nature of our imperishability, which is those who fear touching the grace of God itself, is the apprehension of allowing Christ consciousness in as well. Light shining undefiled, sun shines in every impure place. So it is with Christ, or the consciousness of it. He is comprehensible. He is incomprehensible in terms of actual being. What does that mean? Comprehensible in terms of Jesus itself, which was the emission or the cascade of how Christ consciousness teachings upon this earth. So we comprehend it through the form, but it's incomprehensible through the actual being. What is the actual being? The actual being was the spirit within Christ. Whoever does not possess the all cannot know Christ. That is really, for me, whoever does not traverse the passage towards understanding the Christ consciousness messaging, then cannot know the teachings of Yeshua, Jesus, or Christ. Okay, God is ineffable. Do not confine the God of all to mental things, which is true. We will never touch the void. We will never touch the void. We will never touch Christ itself or the Godhead through this mind. It's not comprehensible through here. This receives what comes through here, which is the Trinity. Remember, the Spirit joined with the heart. The mind is the receiver. It is the Trinity. This, the mental. We cannot have images or think. We cannot think we know the divine. We can only know the divine from knowledge from here. One who condemns. This is why I don't resonate with those who intellectually speak of the passage towards the divine. The divine can only be understood through emotion, can only be understood through feeling, and can only be understood through internal expression of thought, which cascades up. You cannot think yourself to the divine. You cannot think yourself to ascension. You cannot think yourself intellectually to anything, which is one of the reasons why I'm not an advocate of complex New Age practices. These are just intellectual processes, complicating something that is actually a simple passage, but a very, very difficult one to traverse. Okay, one who condemns not to be judged by the one who condemns. Remember, condemnation is your own. Let the person who wishes to know this one ask quietly and reverently. Yes, practice that which you seek quietly within yourself. The passage is yourself. You can share it with others, but the passage is quietly and reverently within one's own self. You will be judged on the basis of everything that you say. Every action, word, thought, and intention is karmic and forms tendency, which effectively is what that means to me. Okay, the light comes from above. One who is in darkness would not be able to see anything without receiving the light. Examine yourself, absolutely. Understand how you will escape. Many are seeking in darkness. Grope about wishing, since there is no source of light for them. So this is basically those who are seeking and groping around for things, but not doing it silently and reverently within peace and prayer, meditation or silence. And they grope around seeking answers, but not looking in the right place. Do not let your mind stare downward, remember, into the waters of the realm of loss, which is the material realm below. Light at things above. So it's asking us to look up above. Not necessarily look above because God is outside there, but looking at the information from the waters of light, which were the two realms of water. That is the information from the light above, which is the waters above. Seek to pursue things above, illuminate your mind, turn towards the light of heaven. Okay, walk in the way of Christ. Do not tire knocking on the door of the Word. The Word is the Logos. The Word is the teachings, the knowing, the Christ knowing, the Christian knowing, the Buddhic knowing, all of the teachings that are asking us to give us different messaging for our overall expansion, which is the Word. And it also means the divine Godhead. Walking the way of Christ, receive rest from your labors. If you walk in another way, those who walk in a broad way, remember we talked about a path that is wide or the straight path. This talks about the straight path and also the broad path. The broad path is that which we wander. The straight, narrow path is the one in which traverse directly. Okay, go down to muddy perdition. Underworld is wide way, so it's the broad path. Christ is the narrow way, which is the direct, single path. Who is your guide into darkness? Okay, Christ's saving work. He was found among humans as a human. He descended to the underworld. The underworld, what this means is that the spirit of Jesus itself entered a human body. It was found among us as a human, but entered the underworld is basically the human world, the material world, this earth plane, the universe itself. Released the children of death, so that was passed the messaging on to those who were listening, so therefore reinvigorated the connection with their own spiritual souls, bringing them back to life, as it were, from a spiritual sense, who were suffering the birth pangs. He saved you from the strong hand of the underworld. It's quite a short passage, that. Okay, another one, short one. Choose the gift of Christ. As for you, give him utterly. You are sent by taking decisive action. And it talked about footsteps in the passage in the book. Actually, the narration, by the way, of the book itself is excellent. If you ever do actually go through the book and read it yourself, I've actually given you pretty much the book on my videos, but it's very, very good. This is talking about walk the passage. Decisive action is execution of this path. If you've got not just reading it, preaching it, but walking the path towards that, your own expansion, your own ascension, as you wish to define that. Ascent is the gift of Christ, humility of the heart, a contrite heart. Humble yourself, exalt yourself, will be exceedingly humbled. Yep, that just practically means looking at the image in the mirror and addressing the ego that confronts itself, the ignorance that confronts itself, the narcissism that you see in front of yourself. Not humble yourself as to become lesser than, to bow down, to kneel, to become weak. No, to become strong and powerful in your own stead within spiritual, but to humble yourself to know that you do not know anything. We do not know anything. We are humbled through a lack of wisdom and knowledge that we are seeking to become that which we are exalting. Okay, guard yourself against evil. Guard yourself of evil. Let the spirit of evil. He is mad and bitter. Good things, not of love, fornication, not okay. So this, I want to talk about this before we go into this. This talks about giving up sex, giving up everything. It's not true. What we need to take from this before we go into this is not to attach to these things, not to make them an obsession. We are physical beings. We are here to experience beautiful things in this world. We are here to have abundance, to have beautiful, abundant lives of richness, of food, of water, of health, of longevity, of love and grace and passions with those that we love and that we connect with. But we are not to obsess and indulge ourselves completely with those in which we then divert ourselves into passages of loss, which is then a death of the spirit. That's what this is really talking about. So when we read this, take it that way if you wish. A good thing not to love fornication, which is like its attachment. Not a good thing for any person to fall into death, which is spiritual death. So a soul that is dead. Better not to live than to acquire an animal's life. True. Strip off the old garment, the ego self. Have this garment, which is the spiritual one. Protect it well. Release every bond, freedom from yourself, which is, remember the image in the mirror. Do not become a nest of foxes and snakes. These are the powers of the adversary. Their food is everything dead. These are within you what living, spiritual, what living thing will come into you. You were a temple. You made yourself a tomb. Become a temple again. So again, this goes back to birth. When we're at birth, we are a temple. The veil doesn't exist. We make ourselves a tomb of ignorance. We are here to recover and remove that veil of ignorance and become a temple again. Light the light within you. Raise your dead who have died. So your own spirit, your connection to it. For they were once living, which is teaching yourself and others. They will live again, for the tree of life is Christ. Quite like that passage. Okay, continue. Christ is the wisdom of God. He is wisdom. Also the word is life and power. He is the door. He is the light. The angel, the good shepherd. Entrust yourself to this one. So when it talks about this one, it's talking about Christ. He's talking about the teachings of Christ and your own Christ consciousness emerging from yourself. So you are this one. Knock on your inner self as open as upon a door. This is knocking at the spiritual door within you. Walk on a straight road. Remember the broad and straight road. Won't be able to go astray. Knock on this one, which is wisdom and knowledge. On hidden treasures. He, Christ consciousness, which is wisdom. Foolish person becomes wise. She, which is wisdom, the Sophia, is a holy king. Wisdom of God became for your sake a foolish form, which is basically the wisdom of God was cascaded through Jesus, which as the Christ consciousness became a foolish form. What was that form? The Spirit of Jesus entered human form, which is the foolish form. Life died for you when he was powerless. Entrust yourselves to the word. Life died basically when we forgot. The message that was cascaded was diluted, was changed, was manipulated by organized faith or church or others. Okay, drink the true wine. Drink of the true vine, Give yourself gladness from the true vine of Christ. The true wine, neither drunkenness nor dregs. True wine entails end of drinking. Give joy to the soul and mind through the Spirit of God. So what does this actually mean? The true vine produces wisdom through the metaphor of a cup of wine. Now the wine here is not one of drunkenness nor dregs. It is not an alcoholic or a forgetfulness wine. It is one of wisdom. And that, once you acquire wisdom, we then traverse away from those attachments or excessive indulgences of drunkenness itself, which is basically talking about the ends of drinking or the continual absorbing of ignorance. Okay, avoid sin. Do not stab yourself with the sword of sin, which is effectively loss. Not surrender yourself to barbarians. They are like lions roaring very loudly. Since you are human, it is possible for you, through reasoning, to conquer them. Yep. Okay, the rational person fears God. The person who does nothing worthy of God, not the rational person. The rational person is one who fears God, the one of mind, intellectual self. A person though existing on earth as a human being makes himself like a god. Does nothing unworthy of God. This person is one who has become like Christ. Worship of God is something that comes from the heart, which it does. You are drawn from it from the internal self, and worship of God from the heart characterizes every soul that is near to God. Where Christ is, sin is idle. The soul that is a member of God's household is one that is kept pure. And this is basically on the path of expansion. And doesn't hide from life. You don't hide from life. You continue through life through the nature of your releasing of the divine knowledge from within you. Soul that has put on Christ, which is a garment, remember the consciousness garment, it's impossible for it to sin. Untrue. We all are not here to be perfect. We are here to evolve. But we all make mistakes. We all have errors in judgment. We all say things that we don't mean sometimes. We don't always live in perfect grace, and we're not here to live in perfect grace. So what is a sin? Well, a sin is anything that goes against our true nature. Something that we may regret later, something that we wish we hadn't done, we hadn't said. We all do these things. So it's not impossible to sin in that way. It's just that we're not here to be perfect. We need to forgive ourselves for the things that we do and forgive others for the things that they do to others and they do to ourselves. But we are here to become as close to the divine nature as we possibly can by just reducing the things and being more mindful of how we are in every action, word and thought of intention as we move greater and greater towards our Christ consciousness within us. Okay, let Christ enter your world. Let Christ alone enter your world. Let him enter the temple that is within you. Throw out all the merchants. The merchants in the temple, of course, what Jesus threw out. Dwell in your inner temple. If you find this one, which is Christ, in your temple, whoever defiles God's temple, God will destroy. Revealed for what you are, enemies do not see Christ in you. They will come to crush you and guard your soul. Not you who will throw them out, but he will throw you out. Not quite. So this is talking about if you defile God's temple, you ignore it, then it dies within you. And then those around you or your ego self will recognize that, and it will come and start to depress upon you. It's asking you to guard your soul here. So it talks about here, he will throw you out. That's not true. I mean, the divine doesn't throw us out of any temple, our own internal temple. We throw ourselves out of our internal temple, and it's for us to come back into that internal temple. I don't read this as a physical temple. We fall into great sin. We become food for your enemies. Person who is worthless in terms of virtue and wisdom runs away from Christ. Well, that's just those who are further away in loss. And that goes all the way into satanic and demonic practices as well. The other end, the very end of the spectrum of complete loss. Okay, know who Christ is. Sorry, I'm just checking on my laptop, make sure no one's messaged me. Know who Christ is as a friend, God and teacher, being divine, become human for your sake. And this is a poem that followed. This is one of the hymns I was suggesting that are in here. A little shortened. He is the one who broke the underworlds. He is the one who threw down every tyrant, loosened their bonds, brought up the poor from the abyss, humbled the arrogant powers. The one who weakness threw down the strong. Humility for God's sake might be highly exalted. Wish to instill humility in the exalted one. Humility might become like God. Humanity might become like God. King, who have revealed to humans the great divinity. Great one of the heavens. Effectively talking about Christ, and that came to humble the arrogant powers and cascade those knowledge throughout all of us, so that humanity may become like God, reveal ourselves to that Godhead and become and traverse that golden thread back whilst in form, and reveal that great divinity. Okay, where is wisdom? He manifests a great zeal for piety. A person in intelligence. Wanderings are many because he knows wisdom. Let him speak wisdom. He confounded the counsels of guileful, which is cunning, intelligent, those who wish to deceive, in other words. Or counsel of guileful people. Court those wise in their own understanding. Discover the counsel of the Almighty, who will be able to comprehend divinity. We scarcely find things on earth who will search for heavenly things. So this effectively, for me, is saying, where is wisdom? Well, wisdom can be those in ignorant, or we can seek wisdom from those who give counsel with cunning intelligence. That this could be organized religions, those who stand on pillars of divinity or bestow themselves the authority of God and wish to preach to us, or we can comprehend that from within ourselves and find those heavenly things from within. So we have to choose where do we derive wisdom from. Everything has been made new. Great power and a great glory revealed to the world. Cast out the weak and the black garment. The black garment is the dark garment. It's the garment of loss. It's a dark, heavy garment, not the other garment of consciousness, of illuminated consciousness is the black garment of loss, of distraction, of ignorance. Make manifest the command of the Father. He might crown those wishing to contend well. Christ is the judge of the contest. Everything has been made new through the Holy Spirit and the mind. So Christ is the judge of the contest. What contest is this? Well, this is our own contest. This is the contest of this world. That one which we either choose to elevate, we choose to be indifferent, or we choose to be more ignorant. We choose. And there is a spiritual battle on earth. There is a spiritual challenge that exists perpetually in this universe. It's for each being, each manifested form, which has a light and the breath of source within it, to choose which way to go. And this is a contest, if you like, to negative or positive aspects, to light or dark, whichever way we wish to look at that. So there is an eternal contest. It's not a battle for our souls, because we will condemn ourselves, depending on which nature we decide to move towards. But there is a contest, and the contest is ours. It's a choice, free will contest. Okay, who can glorify God adequately? How much praise shall I give you? Glorify God adequately. Who have glorified your word in order to save everyone? The firstborn, which is the Spirit, wisdom, which is Sophia, and the first light. Hymn to Christ. So this was a hymn, shortened. He is light, a power of God, a pure emanation of the Almighty, a spotless mirror of the activity of God, light of light forever, an eye that looks at the invisible Father, creating by the Father's will, was begotten by the Father's good pleasure, in other words, birthed. Incomprehensible word, vivifies and nourishes. Soul gives life to all the members of the body, rules over all with power, beginning and end of everyone. The last bit, beginning and end of everyone, is true. We are pure light. We are pure spirit. We are the breath of God. And we were started this way, and we will end this way. The period in between, that is your choice through free will, karma, and tendencies to determine. Okay, Christ takes pains on behalf of everyone. Pains on behalf of everyone. Rejoices and mourns. Mourns gotten the place of mourns those who have gotten the place of punishment. It mourns those of ignorance. Pains on the behalf of everyone. Rejoices over everyone who lives in purity. In other words, rejoices over everyone who has chosen the path to enlightenment, as it were. Okay, fight the good fight. Do not give sleep to your eyes. Be saved like a gazelle, which is fast, nimble. Fight the great fight as long as the contest lasts. Not only the holy ones, also powers of the adversary, gain victory over the powers. Bring great joy to everyone who is holy. Bring great grief to your enemies. A judge of your contest, which is Christ, the Christ consciousness in yourself, is helpful. He wants you to prevail. Do not be slow hearing. Soar like an eagle, a person not pleasing to God. Child of position, go down to the abyss. So this is like soar like an eagle, and there are those persons who are not doing pleasing acts towards enlightenment or towards the Godhead. They are childs of perdition, which is eternal punishment, in other words. Go down to the abyss. So perdition isn't always what we deem as actual punishment. Perdition in this sense is that which is not seeking light and grace and revealing the great Christ consciousness within our divine consciousness within us is regarded as a punishment. From a spiritual sense, it's regarded as the worst punishment one could have. It doesn't necessarily mean this is perdition in a physical sense, because there are many in this world who do not seek or on this passage, but live visibly, materially, very abundant lives of external pleasures and satisfactions. But from a spiritual sense, that is perdition. It's perdition of the soul. It's perdition of the spirit. If you're not with that spirit from a divine perspective, this is an eternal punishment. It's perdition itself. So remember, it's a spiritual meaning. And they go down to the abyss, which is the waters below of loss. God's hand in creation. No one prevents him. Who is stronger than he? Touches the earth, causing it to quake. Who gathered the waters of such a great sea? The Lord has created all these things. Hand of the Father is Christ. It became the mother of everything, existing always as Son of the Father. We are all sons and daughters of grace. Everything that exists is an expression and has a divine breath within it that gives it an awareness of itself, which is the divine spirit. Christ, the divine Son. Consider the Almighty, who always exists, was not always reigning as king without also needing the divine Son. Everything subsists in God. Through the Word, God is near at hand. So, the Almighty who always exists was not always reigning as king. What does this mean? It means that it always exists within us, but it wasn't the king, it wasn't the guide of our lives. It needed a messenger to remind us that that king was within us. The breath of the divine was within us. That's what that sentence means. Okay, this is the last slide. Sure you'll all be happy to hear. God's gift to the human race. This divine, which is the knowing mind, agrees with you on anything. Know that the entire divine agrees. It's not content with anything evil. It teaches everyone. God has given to the human race. Human might be superior to all the angels and the archangels. So we do look up at angelic forms or sixth-dimensional, seventh-dimensional expressions of frequency, which are angelic or archangelic frequencies. We are here to become, as I said, traverse that golden thread back up to the divine, so we can become that which we think is more elevated spiritually than us. We are here to become this. That is what the breath of the Spirit is asking us to embrace. And it waits, the divine waits for us with open arms and love to come back to it, to become better than the angels that we wish, that we seek externally to ourselves, to become the angelic frequency with us, to be better, to become the archangel frequency, which is the moksha, to revealing ourselves, to get ourselves to become spiritually and energetically at the side of God, which is where we determine archangels to be. Okay, God is both hidden and revealed. God does not need to test anyone, knows all things, hidden things of the heart, revealed, wanting in his presence. Even things that are in darkness are before him like light. True. Remember, everything that exists, dark or light, both extremes are within the divine and within the light, which is visible. It is an expression of free will and all possibility of the universe that is within the all. Nothing hidden except God alone. That is only hidden because we hide it from ourselves. God knows everything. People, will be corrected by their hearts. No one perceives the things of God. God is unfathomable, difficult to search him out, even find Christ. He dwells in every place and in no place. No one who wants to can know God as he is, which is true. Thrones of the Spirit. If you do not know yourself, you will not be able to know any of these, which is angels, Christ, and so forth. It's true about this. No one who wants to know can know God as he is. It's just not possible. Anyone who professes to know the absolute and is in physical form is not telling you the truth. We are here to, as I said, to express as far up this goal, our thread towards our core, as we can achieve within this vessel. Remember, this vessel also has a confinement. We have a confinement of what we're able to understand and express through this mind, to understand consciously here. We can go a long way with this vessel. It has capacities, almost limitless capacities within this realm of the universe, but it's not the all. Our expression and knowing of God and the divine will exist when we are not confined to a vessel, when we are home. This comes before life and the end of life. We are to become, as much as we can, the Godhead whilst in life, to remove ourselves from the burden of cyclical rebirth, which is incarnation, which does actually happen. Okay, and finally, concluding exhortations. Open the door for yourself. Know the one who is. He is the door of faith, which is persistence. Remember, faith is persistence and practice of what it is that we are revealing to ourselves. Become all for everyone. Prepare yourselves to escape from the world rulers of darkness. That means come towards divine light. With Christ, you will prevail over this world. Open for yourself. You will purify yourself for the outward life. Don't be a merchant of the word of God, which is mean practice, not preach. Put all words to test, which is practice, do not just preach. Don't wish to acquire honors. Accept yourself the wisdom of Christ, knowing that God's way is always profitable. So that's the end of that, the teachings of Sylvanas. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, it was very long, and thank you for all of you guys who are still listening. I do truly appreciate it. And remember, everything we've read, that we've gone through so far, is asking you to become the thing that we seek. The second coming is yourself. Become that. That's the salvation of this world, actually. It's the salvation of the human experience. It's how it will become greater than what it can be, what it is today. The duality brutal dualities which we experience in life are here because of our loss. There are more people lost than there are more people seeking. There are many indifferent in the middle who walk sheepishly along. And duality exists as long as this paradigm exists. The more that goes towards light, which is an independent decision that we make, is driven from the heart, and somehow channeling our experiences in life will drive us towards there. Or the inner feeling that has been there through life will one day be so powerful that it will ask us to open a book to reveal light to ourselves. But as more and more move towards the Godhead, understand the breath of life of the divine within ourselves, this world will change. The paradigm, the frequency of it will change. The duality that we experience will recede as more light rises, the darkness falls. But that will take many, many incarnations, countless incarnations from all of us, and thousands of life and eons and ages. But we all need to start now for ourselves. And that is what the second coming is. And eventually, we'll traverse the thread so far whilst being experienced incarnational life. Life itself has no purpose, and we will no longer need or choose it for any reason. And again, become that which we practice and preach. And if anybody wishes to send me any questions, or actually wants me to talk about anything specifically, please send me an email or Facebook Messenger, whatever you wish. I truly appreciate inputs and comments that people make. I do this for a purpose. It is my own purpose for life, actually, is what I'm doing here. So I will continue to always do it. This and other books and other practices and philosophies we will delve into and interpret for ourselves. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Just put the webcam back on there. I want to say thank you to you all and for listening to this very lengthy video. I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and God bless to you all. Thank you so much.